My name is Clara. The evening of my sister Sophia's wedding was supposed to be perfect. But everything went wrong in an instant. A seemingly accidental push at the edge of a fountain, and there I was, knee-deep in water in front of all the guests. And that accidental push came from my own mother. I saw the way they looked at me, my family, with poorly concealed satisfaction. They expected tears, hysterics. They expected me, as usual, to silently accept my role in their drama. So I smiled. But it wasn't the smile of a victim. They didn't know the most important thing. They had no idea who I had become over the past few years, nor who was waiting for me at the entrance to the hall. The evening was just beginning, and soon their smug smiles would be replaced by a completely different expression. In the Ashworth family of Boston, there was one unshakable rule: image is everything. Our sprawling home in the prestigious Beacon Hill neighborhood was our stage, upon which we performed the play of a successful and happy family. But behind the scenes, everything was different. The center of this universe was my younger sister, Sophia. From birth, she was the star, and I, Clara, was her shadow. The constant refrain of "Why can't you be more like Sophia?" became the soundtrack of my upbringing. Our parents, Richard and Catherine Ashworth, were the conductors of this orchestra. My father, a senior partner at a law firm, was obsessed with status. My mother, a former debutante who now chaired several charitable committees, constantly made it clear with her cold gaze that I didn't measure up. When I brought home excellent grades, Sophia had the same, but she was also involved in music and sports. When I won the city chemistry competition, all anyone could talk about was how Sophia had landed the lead role in the school play on the same day. This pattern repeated itself over and over, relentlessly and, it seemed to me, deliberately. "Clara, don't slouch. With posture like that, you'll never make the right impression," my mother would hiss at family dinners when I was just 12. "Sophia, on the other hand, has an innate elegance," she would add, proudly patting my sister's shoulder. "You'll have to work on that." On my 16th birthday, my father raised a toast. I remember freezing in anticipation. Perhaps this time, the toast would be for me. Instead, he solemnly announced that Sophia had been accepted into a prestigious summer leadership program at Georgetown. My birthday cake was left in the kitchen, forgotten. My college years offered no respite. I studied diligently at Boston University, maintaining a top GPA and working part-time. My parents rarely found time to attend my student events, yet they would travel hundreds of miles to not miss a single one of Sophia's performances at the prestigious Tisch School of the Arts in New York. When I graduated with honors in law, my mother called my career choice reliable. "At least you'll always have a job," she said with a smile devoid of warmth. Meanwhile, Sophia's degree in art history was touted as following her passion. This string of small slights continued after graduation. Every family gathering became an ordeal where my achievements were minimized, and my mistakes were magnified. During my second year at the FBI Academy in Quantico, I made a decision. I would detach from them emotionally. I stopped sharing details of my life, making excuses to miss holiday trips home. I built walls around myself far higher than those of our family home. The irony was that as I distanced myself, my career soared. I found my calling in counterintelligence, where my analytical mind and perseverance were valued like never before. I rose through the ranks quickly. By 29, I was managing complex operations my family couldn't even fathom. It was during a particularly challenging international security case that I met Alex Monroe. We didn't meet on an assignment, but at a cybersecurity conference where I was speaking on behalf of the Bureau. Alex was no ordinary tech entrepreneur. He had built Monroe Dynamics, a multi-billion-dollar giant in digital security, from his dorm room. His systems protected everything from government agencies to major corporations. Our connection was immediate and powerful. For the first time, I met someone who saw me for who I was, not through the prism of my family history. Our romance was a whirlwind, but we kept it private due to the nature of our professions. "I've never met anyone like you," Alex told me on our third date as we walked along the waterfront at night. "You're incredible, Clara. I hope you know that." Those simple, sincere words meant more to me than anything my family had ever said. We married 2 years later in a secret ceremony with only 2 witnesses, my most trusted colleague, Sarah, and Alex's brother, Michael. The decision to keep our marriage secret wasn't just for security reasons, though that was a major factor. It was my desire to have a part of my life that was pure, untouched by my family's negativity. For 3 years, we lived a double life. Alex traveled constantly for his business empire, while my career at the bureau continued to ascend. I was eventually appointed Deputy Director of Counterintelligence Operations, the youngest in FBI history. And then came my sister's wedding day. The invitation had arrived 6 months prior, delivered by courier, bearing the embossed Ashworth family crest. It was less an invitation and more a declaration. Sophia was marrying Jonathan Davenport Jr., a successful investment banker and heir to Old Boston money. This event was to be the pinnacle of my parents' lives, a showcase of their status and connections. As luck would have it, Alex had a critical trip to Dubai scheduled for the same day, final negotiations on a major international contract. "I can cancel," he said, seeing my hesitation. "No," I replied. "It's too important for Monroe Dynamics. I can handle it. It's just a few hours. I'll try to be back by the end of the evening," he promised. So there I was, alone, driving my black Audi, one of my few indulgences, to the Fairmont Copley Plaza Hotel. With every passing mile, the knot of anxiety in my stomach tightened. At the entrance, I handed my keys to the valet and took a final look at my reflection. I wore a simple, elegant silk dress in a soft blue. The only jewelry was a pair of modest diamond earrings from Alex. My hair was swept into a low bun. Outwardly, I was calm and composed. Inside, I was anything but. The hotel's main ballroom was transformed. Walls were covered in panels of live hydrangeas, and a massive ice sculpture of intertwined swans stood in the center. It screamed of the kind of ostentatious luxury my parents adored. I presented my invitation to the host. He scanned the list, his brow furrowing slightly. "Miss Ashworth, your table is number 22. Of course, not at the main family table." I nodded silently. The evening was starting just as I'd expected. My cousin Emily was the first to approach. Her eyes widened in surprise before settling into a polite smile. "Clara, what a surprise. We didn't think you'd come." Her eyes darted around. "And you're alone?" "Yes," I said simply. "How brave of you," she said with false sympathy. "Especially after that unpleasant business with your professor. What was his name?" "Mom said you were so upset when he left you for his assistant." The story was a complete fabrication. I had never dated a professor. But this was my family's trademark, creating pathetic, fictional narratives about me to make their own lives seem more brilliant. "You must be mistaken," I replied calmly. Other relatives followed, each conversation a variation on the same theme. Aunt Susan complimented my practical haircut. Uncle Arthur loudly wondered if I was tired of shuffling papers for the government and suggested I find a job that might attract a decent man. My cousin Tiffany, a bridesmaid, glided over with a saccharine smile. "Clara, it's been ages. Love the dress. Find it on sale? You always were so frugal." Before I could respond, she added, "Sophia was so worried you wouldn't come. You missed the bachelorette party and the rehearsal dinner." Those events had conflicted with work trips I couldn't discuss. "Work," I said curtly. "Oh, right, your secret job," she said, making air quotes. "My brother Bradford is in government service too. Says it's a lot of paperwork." I just smiled. Let them think I was a minor clerk. The truth was my ace in the hole, and I wasn't playing it yet. My mother, Catherine, appeared in a pale blue designer gown that likely cost more than my monthly salary. "Clara, you made it," she said, as if I'd traveled across the country instead of from another Boston neighborhood. "Sophia was so worried you'd be a no-show again." "I wouldn't miss my sister's wedding," I replied. Her eyes scanned my outfit for flaws. "That color washes you out," was her verdict. You should have consulted me. Before I could answer, the wedding party made their grand entrance. Sophia, on the arm of her new husband, now officially Mrs. Davenport, was breathtaking in a Vera Wang gown with a ridiculously long train. My father gazed at her with an adoration I'd never seen him direct at me. My assigned seat was at table 22, in the darkest, most remote corner of the ballroom, the table for obligatory but unwanted guests. My companions were distant relatives who weren't even sure whose daughter I was. I watched the performance unfold silently. My cousin Tiffany, the maid of honor, gave a gushing speech about how Sophia was the sister she never had, without a single glance in my direction. The best man made a crude joke about Jonathan marrying into the Ashworth dynasty. My parents, at the head table, were radiant. They laughed, accepted congratulations, and never once looked my way. I later found out they had taken the family portrait an hour before I arrived. I wasn't in it. I nursed a glass of water, needing a clear head. The only tether to my reality was a text from Alex from an hour ago, in town, on my way. Be there soon. When the dancing started, I tried to join my cousins, but they formed a tight circle, pointedly excluding me. I retreated to a quiet corner and checked my watch. Alex would be here soon. Just then, my father approached, champagne glass in hand. You could at least pretend to be having a good time, he hissed. Everyone's whispering about your sour face. I'm not sour, Dad. I'm observing. Well, observe with a smile. The Davenports are very influential. Your sister has made a brilliant match. Don't embarrass us. He paused. And you could have brought a date. Everyone's asking why you're alone again. I didn't tell him my husband was worth more than the entire Davenport family combined. The grand finale was approaching. When the music faded, my mother, Catherine, tapped her glass. She stood in the center of the room, near the ice swans. Today is the happiest day of my life, her voice, practiced at countless charity events, filled the hall. My beautiful Sophia has made a union that exceeds all our wildest dreams. Jonathan, she said to her new son-in-law, welcome to a family built on the pursuit of excellence. She raised her glass. To Sophia, who has never let us down. From her first steps to graduating with honors from Tisch, she has always been our pride. A pang of hurt shot through me. Not because I expected a mention, but because of the unspoken implication. Sophia never let us down meant that I always had. As my mother's speech continued, I felt an urgent need for fresh air. I slipped out onto the terrace. The cool night and the gentle sound of the fountain were a brief respite. I had almost composed myself when the door opened behind me. It was my mother. Her perfect smile was gone, replaced by a cold, hard expression. Running away already, Clara? She asked, loud enough for other guests to hear. Just getting some air, I said evenly. Of course, she sneered. Classic Clara. Always disappearing when there are family obligations. My face flushed. That's not true. Isn't it? Her voice grew sharper. You missed all the pre-wedding events. You came alone, without even a date. The terrace grew quiet. I'm sorry if my solo presence is such an offense. You couldn't even find an escort, she declared with a theatrical sigh. 32 years old, and no prospects. But Sophia, look at her, she landed the most eligible bachelor in Boston. A few guests snickered. I saw my father and sister emerge onto the terrace. He wore a strained smile. Sophia's face showed unconcealed triumph. They were united against me. You think we don't know why you've become so distant? My mother continued, her voice rising. You just can't handle your sister's success. You've always been in her shadow. Her face was a mask of tension. Mom, please, don't, I said quietly, aware of the staring guests. Don't? Tell the truth? That you've always felt second best? In that moment, a strange, cold calm washed over me. You have no idea who I am, I said. Oh, I know exactly who you are, she retorted, stepping into my personal space. I instinctively took a step back. She followed. Another step back, and my heel hit the low stone border of the fountain. I lost my balance. For a heart-stopping moment, I was suspended in the air before I fell backward into the icy water. The shock of the cold, my ruined hair, the silk dress clinging to me like a second skin. Water and makeup streamed down my face. The cold was nothing compared to the shock of what had just happened. My own mother had publicly humiliated me at my sister's wedding. The guests' reaction was a wave of gasps, then nervous titters, then outright laughter. Someone even clapped. I heard someone shout, "Looks like someone had too much champagne." More laughter. I slowly struggled to my feet, the water turning my beautiful dress into a soggy rag. My heels slipped on the fountain's tiled floor. Through my wet hair, I saw their faces. My mother's triumphant expression. My father's smirk, poorly hidden by his hand. My sister's pure, unadulterated joy. The photographer's flash went off, immortalizing my shame. I knew these photos would make it into the wedding album. Another funny story for family gatherings. More evidence for the case of Clara the failure. But something shifted inside me in that cold water. Instead of hurt, I felt a ringing clarity. A single thought echoed in my mind: enough. Enough trying to earn their love. Enough letting them define my worth. I slowly stood up, water dripping from my dress. I looked at my father, but I spoke to everyone. "I want you all to remember this evening," I said, my voice steady. "Just remember the choice you made today." Uncertainty flickered in my mother's eyes. She hadn't expected this tone from me. I said no more. Sometimes the most important promises are the ones we make to ourselves. I climbed out of the fountain, struggling to maintain my dignity. The laughter died down, replaced by a stunned silence. I remembered my graduation, how a cutting remark from my mother had made me want to disappear. But this was different. I walked across the ballroom, leaving a trail of wet footprints. No one moved. No one offered help. No one broke the silence. And strangely, I was fine with that. For the first time in my life, I needed nothing from them. The ladies' room was mercifully empty. My reflection was a mess, but I didn't feel defeated. I felt free. I remembered my phone was at table 22. After retrieving it from a concerned relative, I found a quiet corner and texted Alex, "How soon will you be here?" The reply was almost immediate, "About 20 minutes. Almost there." Did something happen? I hesitated, then typed the truth: "Mom made sure I fell into the fountain." In front of everyone. The typing indicator appeared and disappeared. Finally, a new message: "I'll be there in 10. My security team is already on the perimeter." I hadn't known he'd sent security ahead. But that was Alex. Always thinking ahead. Always protecting what was important to him. And I was important to him. Just then, a young woman entered the restroom. She stopped short when she saw me. "Oh, are you all right?" "Yes," I said, squaring my shoulders. "Just a little wet." She looked embarrassed. "Everyone's talking about it. What your mother did, it was awful." This unexpected kindness from a stranger almost brought me to tears. "Thank you for saying that. I have a spare dress in my car," she offered. "Maybe it would fit?" "That's incredibly kind, but I have a change of clothes in my car." Professional habit. "Could you just walk me to the parking lot? I don't want to go through the ballroom alone again." "Of course," she nodded. "I'm Olivia. Jonathan's stepsister. The Davenport family's black sheep, so to speak." "Clara," I said, extending my still damp hand. "The Ashworth family's biggest disappointment. Pleasure to meet you." She laughed, and that brief, genuine connection helped me regain my balance. Olivia helped me slip out a side door to the parking lot. In my trunk was my go bag, a simple black dress and flat shoes. 10 minutes later, I looked like a composed, confident professional again. As I reapplied my makeup, I thought about my real life, the one my family knew nothing about. I had graduated from the FBI Academy with honors. I led life-saving operations. I had earned the respect of veteran agents and high-ranking officials. I was married to a brilliant, kind man who loved me for who I am. None of these achievements had anything to do with the people in that ballroom. And perhaps that was the lesson. True value isn't found in the distorting mirrors of one's family, but outside them. I checked my watch. Alex would be here any minute. And for the first time I was ready to reveal our marriage. Not to impress them, that desire had drowned in the fountain, but because I was tired of making myself small for their comfort. My phone vibrated. A text from Alex, "I'm here." I took a deep breath, smoothed my simple black dress, and walked back into the ballroom with my head held high. Olivia gave me a discreet thumbs up. The party was in full swing, and no one noticed me at first. It allowed me to position myself near the entrance to meet my husband. The first person I saw was my father, holding court at the bar. As I drew closer, I heard him say, "She's always been a difficult case. We gave her everything. But some potential just can't be unlocked." "What a shame," one of his colleagues agreed. "Especially compared to Sophia's incredible success." My father sighed dramatically. "Catherine and I have just accepted that Clara will never." He trailed off as he saw me. "Clara," he recovered quickly. "You've changed." "Yes, Dad," I replied. "Professional habit." His colleagues mumbled excuses and drifted away. "Tell me, Dad, was that scene at the fountain part of the evening's entertainment? Or was it an improvisation?" I asked quietly. "Stop being dramatic," he hissed. "Your mother was provoked by your behavior." "Mother's action was an inappropriate reaction," I retorted. "And your silence was complicity. Maybe if you had made an effort," he continued, "brought someone with you, tried to be happy for your sister instead of sulking in corners, none of this would have happened." I looked at him, searching for a trace of fatherly compassion, but saw only cold irritation at my disruption of his perfect evening. "You know what's funny, Dad?" I said. "I've spent my entire life trying to be invisible so as not to get in your way. And even that was too much." At that moment, there was a stir at the entrance. Several car doors slammed. Two men in sharp suits entered and scanned the room with professional eyes. My mother frowned. "What is this circus? Did the Davenports bring their own security?" "He's right on time," I murmured, checking my watch. A black Maybach, flanked by two SUVs, pulled up to the entrance. The guests fell silent. Even the orchestra seemed to quiet down. My heart hammered in my chest. In a moment, my family would finally meet my husband. The doors swung open. Two of his bodyguards, James and Ben, entered first, their gazes sweeping the room. My father, indignant, approached them. "Excuse me," he said haughtily, "but this is a private event." James looked straight through him and spoke into his earpiece, "Perimeter is clear. You can enter." And then, Alex walked in. My husband had always commanded a room, but tonight he seemed to fill the entire space. Tall and athletic in a bespoke Tom Ford suit that screamed power. His dark hair was slightly windblown, I guessed he'd taken a helicopter. His piercing blue eyes found me across the room, and his serious expression softened into the warm smile that was reserved only for me. He strode toward me, the crowd parting before him. I saw my mother freeze as she realized this imposing stranger was heading for our table. 4 more security guards entered and took positions around the room. "Clara," Alex said, his warm voice filling the sudden silence. He took my hands in his. "Sorry to keep you waiting." "You're right on time," I replied, feeling grounded for the first time all evening. He leaned in and kissed me. Then, with a hand on my back, he turned to my mother. "Mrs. Ashworth," his tone was impeccably polite but glacial. "Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Alex Monroe, Clara's husband." A storm of emotions crossed my mother's face, confusion, shock, frantic calculation. husband? Her voice was unnaturally high. But Clara never said. It will be 3 years next month, Alex finished gently. We prefer to keep our personal life private. For security reasons. My father approached, his face a mask of controlled fury. What is going on here? He demanded. Are you trying to make a scene? Spoil your sister's celebration? This is crossing a line, Clara. Alex's expression remained calm, but his eyes hardened. Mr. Ashworth, he said firmly, I am Alex Monroe, head of Monroe Dynamics. And I have been your daughter's husband for almost 3 years. My father's jaw dropped. Monroe Dynamics was a name known to anyone in the business world. Even my father, far from the tech scene, recognized it. That can't be, he stammered. We would have known. Really? Alex asked calmly. When was the last time you were genuinely interested in Clara's life? From what I've seen tonight, your interest has been more about criticism than connection. Sophia, in her voluminous gown, pushed through, followed by her new husband, Jonathan. What is going on? She demanded. Who are all these people? It seems, my mother said faintly, your sister has a husband. What nonsense. Sophia scoffed. She's making this up to ruin my day. Alex's hand on my shoulder was a comforting weight. My mother spoke again, her voice now a mixture of awe and horror, looking at Alex but speaking to Sophia. Sophia, be quiet. Do you have any idea who this is? This is Alex Monroe. The head of Monroe Dynamics. Is this a joke? My father managed. You seriously expect us to believe that our Clara secretly married an IT billionaire? He's right, someone from the crowd said. One of Jonathan's friends was staring at his phone. It really is Alex Monroe. Cover of Forbes last month. Net worth, $10 billion. A collective gasp went through the room. My mother swayed, grabbing a chair for support. I don't understand. She whispered. Why didn't you tell us? For the first time, her voice was free of accusation, filled only with a raw, bitter confusion. I almost felt sorry for her. When were you ever ready to hear good news about me, Mom? I asked gently. When was the last time you were genuinely happy for my success? There was no answer. As for me, Alex continued, I've wanted to meet the family Clara has told me so much about. Though I must admit, after the reports I've received in the last hour, I am. He chose his word carefully, disappointed. Listen, young man. My father began. No, Mr. Ashworth, Alex's voice was like ice. You listen. I know exactly what happened on that terrace. I know how your wife cornered Clara until she fell into the fountain. I know every word that was said. My people were here long before I arrived, ready to intervene, Alex continued, but Clara signaled them not to. Even after everything, she didn't want to ruin her sister's wedding. The room was silent. So consider yourselves lucky, Alex finished. My wife is a much better person than I am. Because if anyone ever treats her like that again, my response will be far less restrained. Just then, the ballroom doors opened again. A man and a woman in business suits entered. I recognized their professional bearing immediately. Sarah and David, my most trusted agents from the bureau. They walked to our table. Director Ashworth, Sarah said formally, using my official title. Apologies for the intrusion, but a situation has arisen that requires your immediate attention. The word director echoed through the silent hall. Director of what? My father snorted. Some regional archive? Alex's smile was razor-sharp. Your daughter, Mr. Ashworth, is the youngest deputy director of counterintelligence operations in the history of the FBI. Another gasp rippled through the crowd. My mother looked faint. Sophia, her bridal radiance replaced by bewilderment, stepped forward. That can't be. Clara is just. Just what, Sophia? I asked quietly. Your loser older sister? The family disappointment? She had no reply. The Clara Ashworth I know, Alex continued, his voice resonating through the hall, is a brilliant strategist and one of the bravest people I've ever met. She is respected by intelligence veterans and the highest levels of government. Every day, she makes decisions that our nation's security depends on. He looked directly at my parents. And for some incomprehensible reason, she still loved you enough to come here tonight, knowing how you would treat her. My mother seemed to deflate, to age in an instant. The imperious socialite vanished, leaving a confused, broken woman. Why didn't you tell us?" she whispered in a voice I barely recognized. "Would you have believed me?" I replied simply. "Or would you have found a way to devalue this, too?" David handed me a secure tablet. "Director Ashworth, sorry to rush you, but we need your authorization for the operation." I scanned the report. "Proceed with option 2, but increase surveillance on the secondary target. I want a full report in 20 minutes. "Yes, ma'am," David said. This brief, professional exchange had the effect of a bombshell. This wasn't a performance. This was real. Alex glanced at his watch. "We should go. The helicopter is waiting. The Dubai team will be on the line in an hour." I nodded and turned to my family one last time. "Congratulations on your wedding, Sophia. I wish you and Jonathan all the best." My sister was speechless. But Jonathan, to his credit, stepped forward and offered Alex his hand. "It was an honor to meet you, Mr. Monroe. And you, Director Ashworth. I hope we'll have a chance to get to know each other better." His sincerity was a pleasant surprise. I shook his hand. "I hope so too, Jonathan." My parents stood like statues, staring at the ruins of the world they had so carefully constructed. "Mr. and Mrs. Ashworth," Alex said with impeccable politeness. "Thank you for the invitation. And my apologies again for not being able to attend the ceremony." My father finally found his voice. "Clara, wait. We need to talk. We're your parents. We've always wanted the best for you. We've always been proud of you. This pathetic attempt to rewrite history might have worked once. But not tonight." "No, Dad," I said gently. "That's not true. But it doesn't matter anymore. I don't need your pride to feel whole." Alex and I turned and walked toward the exit, my security team closing ranks around us. The whispers behind us grew to a buzz. The Ashworth family would never be the same. Neither would I. An armored SUV was waiting, engine running. As we walked toward it, I felt years of weight lift from my shoulders. "How are you?" Alex shouted over the city noise. "Surprisingly, I'm perfectly fine," I answered. We were almost at the car when my mother appeared, blocking our path. She was out of breath, her perfect hair disheveled. "Clara," her voice was uncharacteristically hesitant. "You can't just leave. We need to talk." I glanced at Sarah, who nodded and stepped back. "I have an emergency, Mom. National security doesn't wait for family drama." "National security," she repeated, the words foreign on her tongue. "So it's all true? You're a director at the FBI?" "Deputy Director of Counterintelligence Operations," I corrected. "For a year and a half." She struggled to reconcile this with the image of me she held in her mind. "But why didn't you tell us? We would have been proud?" I finished for her. "Really? Or would you have found a way to diminish it? Compare it to Sophia's latest triumph? Imply I got the position through some means other than merit?" Her trembling lips were all the answer I needed. I'd hit a nerve. "And your marriage?" she pressed on. 3 years? And you never mentioned your husband is one of the richest men in the country?" I noted her focus was on his wealth, not him. "Our relationship wasn't public for many reasons," I said calmly. "Alex's position makes him a target. My job requires discretion." And frankly, I wanted to have something in my life that wasn't subject to the constant criticism of the Ashworth family. My agent signaled to me. "I have to go, Mom. It's important." "Will you come back?" she asked, a note of fear in her voice for the first time. "To talk. To give us a chance to get to know you." I looked at her, searching for the usual manipulation, but saw only raw confusion and pain. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "It depends on who you want to know, the real me, or the successful version that finally fits your worldview." She had no response. "Think about it," I said. "Think about if you really want to know me, not the person you always wanted me to be." I turned to leave, but her voice stopped me. "Your father will never admit it," she said quietly, "but he was wrong today. What he did was unforgivable." It wasn't an apology. But it was the closest thing to an admission of fault I had ever heard from her. "Thank you for saying that," I replied. "I have to go." As we drove away, I looked back. My mother stood on the sidewalk, a small, lost figure against the Grand Hotel. For the first time, I saw her not as the all-powerful matriarch, but as a woman whose world of status and illusion had just come crashing down. And to my surprise, I felt a flicker of compassion. Finally alone in our penthouse overlooking the river, Alex loosened his tie. "Quite a day," he said with a wry smile. The lights of Boston glittered on the dark water. "Not exactly how I pictured meeting your family," I admitted, kicking off my shoes. "Honestly, I kind of enjoyed it," he grinned. "The look on your father's face when David called you director was priceless." I laughed. "Yes, that was something." "Your mother came after you. That means something." "I'm not sure what yet," I said honestly. 30 years of habit don't disappear in one night." "No," he agreed, wrapping his arms around me. "But nights like this can open doors for change. Whatever you decide, I'm on your side." This was true love. Not the approval I had craved for so long, but unconditional support. "Did you see Jonathan's face when he realized who you were?" I asked, changing the subject. Alex chuckled. "He seems to be the only one who behaved with dignity." "I noticed that too," I admitted. "Maybe Sophia chose a better husband than I gave her credit for." My phone vibrated. It was a text from Olivia, Jonathan's stepsister. "OMG. Total chaos here since you left. Your father is muttering about a mistake. Your mother is silent. Sophia locked herself in the bridal suite. P.S. I googled your husband. Holy crap. P.P.S. I'm sorry they treated you like that. Drink sometime? Your new favorite cousin." I showed the message to Alex. He raised an eyebrow. "New favorite cousin?" "She was very kind after the fountain incident," I explained. "Helped me make a clean getaway." "Allies sometimes appear in the most unexpected places," he remarked. Over the next hour, my phone was inundated with messages from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Aunts suddenly remembered my upcoming birthday. Cousins invited me to lunch. My father sent a curt text, "We need to discuss the situation as soon as possible." I turned off my notifications. "They're not writing to me," I told Alex. "They're writing to Director Ashworth, wife of billionaire Alex Monroe." "Does that surprise you?" he asked gently. "No," I admitted. "But it explains a lot." As I fell asleep that night, I realized I'd always had a family. Alex, my team at the bureau, my friends. A family of my own choosing. And that changed everything. 3 weeks later, Alex and I were at our favorite coffee shop on Newberry Street, enjoying a rare quiet moment. "Your mom called again," he said, stirring his coffee. "Third time this week. Inviting us for Sunday dinner." I watched the autumn leaves drift down onto Commonwealth Avenue. "Are you thinking of going?" he asked. "I don't know. On one hand, it could be damage control. I heard my father is having trouble at his firm, and my mother was asked to step down as chair of her favorite charity. Apparently, publicly humiliating your FBI agent daughter and feuding with her billionaire husband is bad for your status. And on the other hand, he asked gently. On the other hand, maybe this is their first real attempt to get to know me. In those 3 weeks, I'd been flooded with messages. My father's were rambling attempts at justification. My mother's were apologetic but still laced with blame for my secrecy. Sophia sent a single text from her honeymoon, "We need to talk when I get back." The most pleasant surprise was my burgeoning friendship with Olivia. We met for coffee, and she confessed she'd always felt like an outsider in her family, a sentiment I knew all too well. Her genuine interest in me, free of any agenda, was a breath of fresh air. I was thinking about what my therapist, Dr. Evans, said. I told Alex that setting boundaries isn't about punishing others, it's about protecting yourself. I like that, he nodded. I think I can have some kind of relationship with them, I mused. But on completely new terms. No more belittling, no more comparisons, no more silent acceptance of disrespect. Sounds like a healthy plan, Alex agreed. And if they can't accept it, I shrugged, I'll continue to build my life with those who can. With you. With my friends. With my chosen family. That evening, after a successful operation, I made a decision. I called my mother. Sunday dinner, I said. Alex and I will be there. But first, my rules. Her immediate agreement told me everything I needed to know. The dinner was predictably awkward. My father feigned interest in my work. My mother fussed over us as if we were royalty. Sophia and Jonathan arrived late. He was genuinely happy to see us, she was distant, still adjusting to the new power dynamic. But there were glimmers of hope. My father asked Alex some surprisingly intelligent questions about cybersecurity. My mother brought out a box of my childhood awards she had kept all these years. The biggest surprise came after dinner when Sophia asked to speak with me alone. In the garden where we used to play, she struggled for words. I didn't know about your work, your life. You never asked, I said, without malice. I know, she fidgeted with her ring. I think I just liked being the favorite. It was easier. Jonathan says I need to figure out why your success scared me so much, even before I knew the whole story. He thinks we both need family therapy. I looked at my sister, and for the first time in years, I saw past her perfect facade to the confused, insecure person beneath. Being the golden child was its own kind of burden. I'll think about it, I said carefully. Not right away. In time. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was a crack in the wall around my heart. In the following months, our family relationships began a slow, creaky process of repair. Weekly dinners became less tense. My father started anger management. My mother and I even went out together occasionally, and while there were still awkward silences, there was also genuine laughter. Healing wasn't a straight line. There were setbacks. But now there was a willingness to admit mistakes and work on them. The most profound change, however, was within me. I no longer measured my worth by their approval. I stopped downplaying my achievements for their comfort. I no longer tolerated disrespect. A year after the wedding, Alex and I hosted a large dinner party. We invited everyone, my chosen family, colleagues, friends, Alex's sister, Olivia, and my family of origin. Looking at the noisy, eclectic group, I finally understood. Family isn't about blood. It's about the people who show up. Who see the real you and love you anyway. Who celebrate your successes without a hint of envy. As I was in the kitchen cutting dessert, Alex came up behind me and put his arms around me. Are you happy? He asked quietly. I looked into the living room. My father was in a deep discussion with David. My mother was showing Olivia pictures on her phone. Sophia and Jonathan were laughing together. It wasn't perfect. It was still complicated. But it was real. Yes, I replied. Barry. If any part of this story resonates with you, if you've ever struggled with family dynamics, I want you to know this: Your value is not determined by anyone else's approval. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it's an act of self-preservation. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is step back, create distance, and allow space for real change to happen, both in yourself and in others. Have you ever had to set firm boundaries with loved ones? What was the outcome? Were you able to rebuild the relationship on new terms, or did you find peace in letting go? Share your experience in the comments.